Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1. Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Dickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
Jamie Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation today will be delivered by Pastor Ben McSpadden from Hope Church in Fort Worth. Ben, thank you very much for being out here today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Lord, we come before you. We thank you to be a part of this city, and we ask for its blessing, because in its blessing we find our own blessings, and so we thank you for that. We thank you for the people that lead these sessions. They have their own personal challenges that they face, and they lay those aside to face even bigger challenges for the city, and we thank you for that act of service and sacrifice. Ask that you give them wisdom and insight today as they pave out directions and just leadership for the city. And we ask that you also give them mercy as they deal with the challenges they face on an individual level. And we pray these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Pastor, for being here today. Mr. May.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements on the agenda today. The first announcement is under the County Administrator section, item 8A1. That will be taken up after the closed session today. Also under elections, item 8F1. There's a revised court communication in your folder this morning as it relates to that particular item. The only correction that we made on that, it was actually an addition. We wanted to ensure that in the order itself that the court found a public purpose to enter into this contract. Members of the court, also would like to remind you that on May 29th, which is not next week but 2 weeks from today, we are not going to have Commissioners Court. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of May the 8th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a slew. That's a term that means a lot.
That's a bunch.
That's a bunch.
Is that Texan?
That's a Texas term that means we got a bunch of resolutions and proclamations. So, Commissioner Wynn, I believe you have a bunch yourself. And so why don't you start? You have a slew, so why don't you start off with your slew of resolutions?
Thank you, Judge. The first resolution is to recognize the 10th anniversary of the Levitt Pavilion. It is for ratification only, and I'll be glad to present it to the Levitt Pavilion at a later time on behalf of the court.
I'll second.
I move for its approval.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Wynn, continue.
We have a resolution of appreciation. Precinct 2 is sad to lose one of our key players, Ms. Karen McBride. After spending a whole lot of years with Tarrant County, she has decided to retire, leaving Texas. I have no idea why, but she's moving back to Arkansas. So Judge
Which
Whitley,
even more calls into question.
So Judge Whitley, would you be so kind to read the resolution into the record, please?
Whereas Karen McBride began her career with Tarrant County over 21 years ago in the medical examiner's office, and whereas Karen began working at Precinct 2 Southeast Maintenance Center as a secretary in April of 1998 and was quickly recognized for her skills and efficiency.
which earned her a promotion to office administrator in October of the same year. And whereas she was instrumental in the design, development, and implementation of the policy manual and in streamlining the budget development process for Precinct 2. And whereas in 2011 she took the role of Assistant Precinct Administrator for Commissioner Andy Wynn, where she used her experience to help cultivate valuable relationships with the cities of Southeast Tarrant County. And whereas in August of 2012, Karen became the first female Assistant Director of Field Operations in Tarrant County history and served as interim director for a period of time during her tenure. And whereas always thinking of innovative ways to increase productivity and improve the work environment, Karen implemented several programs during her time as assistant director, including the Lunch and Learn, the bi-monthly employee recognition programs, and ensuring every employee received heavy equipment operator and safety training. And whereas Karen is respected and recognized throughout the county for her work ethic and commitment to serving the citizens of Tarrant County, and leaves a legacy as a Tarrant County employee who always maintains the highest standards and integrity. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize Karen McBride for her years of exemplary service to the citizens of Tarrant County. In witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of May, 2018.
And I move for its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Ms. Karen Kaiser McBride, please come to the podium. I want to say this about Karen, if I may. When I first took office in 2011, Karen was an administrative assistant. Two people that came over to assist. The first person was Commissioner Figgis. Remember you did that. You sent Karen Sims over to help. And the second person was Karen Kaiser at the time. Although her role was very limited, but she went way out of her way to make sure that I understand county policy, the budgeting process, explaining SAP, the whole 9 yards. And from there, she was willing to grow out of her comfort zone. Imagine being an assistant, administrative assistant, to community outreach and eventually to assistant director. It took a lot of courage for you to do that and be willing to stand toe to toe with 30-something big, tall cowboys at the Precinct 2 Maintenance Center. So I appreciate your service, but more importantly, your heart. Thank you so much and have a great time in retirement.
I like your shirt. Turn around, show it to everybody.
Okay. I just want to say thank you. Tarrant County has been great to me. I mean, really, I've raised two beautiful and successful daughters while I've been here, and I want to thank Commissioner Wynn and Jenny McGarry for the opportunities that they gave me and just believing and trusting in me, and I'm looking forward to this next chapter of my life now.
Now, do you have some folks here with you today that you might want to introduce?
Well, I have my boss, Keith Melton, and I have Bridget Versiaga, who has been my right arm for almost the whole 20 years. And just all of our staff is here. But
Karen, thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much for all the service you give.
One more, two more. Well, May is Asian American Heritage Month, and we have a proclamation from the Commissioner's Court, and Your Honor, will you please read it into record, please?
I will if I can find it.
Here, you can read.
Whereas Asian Pacific American Heritage Month is celebrated annually in the United States each May, and whereas a congressional bill introduced in 1977 designated the first 10 days of May as Asian Pacific Heritage Week, and a joint resolution designating the annual celebration was signed in October 1978, and whereas in May of 1990, President George H.W. Bush expanded the holiday further when he designated May to be Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And whereas May was chosen as the commemorative month in honor of the immigration of the first Japanese to the United States on May 7, 1843, and marked the anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad completion on May 10, 1869, which was built mainly by Chinese immigrants. And whereas from politicians to scientists to professional athletes, Asian Pacific Americans have made many contributions to the arts, sciences, government, commerce, and education in the United States, and have served in our nation's armed forces with honor. And whereas Asians of diverse origins came to America to discover the promise of our nation and continue to look at the United States as a land of hope, liberty, and opportunity, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in Tarrant County, recognizing the contributions Asian Pacific Americans have made, as well as their rich legacy of ingenuity, perseverance, and accomplishment. And further, we encourage our residents to learn more about the history of Asian Pacific Americans and how they have contributed to the rich heritage of our nation, in witness whereof we have herein set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of May 2018.
And I move for its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Accepting the proclamation for the Commissioners Court today are Mr. Matthew Lowe and Mr. David Dang. Matthew is with Asia Times Square in Grand Prairie, and Mr. David Dang is with Benton Plaza in East Arlington. Mr. Dang, however, can't make it today, this morning, but Mr. Matthew Lowe is here. Matthew, would you please come forward to the podium, please? And I'll share with the audience and the court members a little bit about the Lowe family. The Lowe family came to this country similarly to the way I came, on a boat. His father, Mr. Grant Lowe, he is no longer with us. Despite multiple challenges, initially he started an Asian grocery store located on Arkansas Avenue in East Arlington, and the initial store was about 3,000 square feet. Currently, Asia Times Square is one of the many ventures that the Lowe family owned. Asia Times Square was retrofitted from an old Walmart and Sam's Wholesale building. If you want to experience an international flavor, whether that's a performance, art, or culture, or food, or frankly, alcohol, you go to Asia Times Square. They have a little bit of everything. And if you want to enjoy live catfish, tilapia, freshly made, on the spot, you even get a chance to point out the exact fish that you want. And relatively affordable. You can go to Asia Times Square. So Matthew and his brothers started the Lowe Foundation to honor the memory of their father. And collectively, the Lowe Foundation has contributed a lot of money to support various nonprofit organizations in Southeast Tarrant County. So Lowe, Matthew Lowe, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Matthew, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Lowe. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Judge. Well, thank you very much, Tarrant County Commissioner, for this opportunity. On behalf of my family in Asia Times Square, it's as an extreme honor to receive this proclamation. Yes, my father passed away a little over a year ago, and we created a nonprofit foundation called the Low Foundation.
And he was a golfer, wasn't he?
Yes, he
He's
was
a big golfer.
decent. Yeah, he can hit stronger, farther, and straighter than I can for sure. But yeah, our mission is to spread love, provide opportunity, and giving hope to all. And so we will continue to do that in honor of our dad. I'm also very proud to be an Asian American, more so proud Asian Texan. So just want to let everybody know that the WNBA League, the Dallas Wing, reach out to Asia Times Square. They are having a Asian Heritage Night. And so Asia Times Square took the opportunity to be a corporate sponsor for that. It's going to be on June 24th. It's a Sunday, and we look forward to having everybody go out there. The Dallas Wing also announced that for every ticket they sell, $5 will go to the Low Foundation so that we can, continue to do what we want to do, which is spread love, provide opportunity, and giving hope to all. Thank you very much.
And finally, Judge, we have a certificate of recognition for the valedictorian and salutatorian, as well as a top scholar athlete from Cannondale ISD. Fortunately, Andrew Flanagan, the top scholar athlete, is able to join us this morning. However, Long Nguyen and Christopher Chan, they can't make it because there was an AP calculus test. Ended up getting scheduled today.
It's a shame that school gets in the way of school.
And they want to get straight A's, so they have to take that test. So, Mr. Andrew Flanagan, can you please come forward? And with Andrew is Miss Carrie Blackstone, who is Andrew's mother and also a principal at R.F. Patterson Elementary. Miss Blackstone, can you kind of raise your hand? There you go. Dr. Missy Glenn is also the deputy. She is the deputy superintendent with KISD. She's been here before,
Yes.
Your Honor. Tracy Williams is the KISD Public Relations Coordinator. And last but certainly not least is Mr. Michael Cagle, who is the Cannondale High School principal. And Andrew, I'll let you tell the court about your plan for the future, but before we do that, I'd like to present to you this beautiful certificate from Tarrant County, honoring you and encourage you to continue on your path of excellence.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It's like Christmas around here when we get with these photographers.
Hello. After high school, I'm attending Jacksonville University to major in biology and play football.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We need a motion to receive and file the representation.
I move to receive and file the certificate of recognition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Commissioner Fickus.
Well, thank you, Judge, and I'm very honored today to present a congratulatory resolution to a very good friend of mine and Northeast Tarrant County and Tarrant County, and that would be Richard Ward, the mayor of the city of Hurst. And I will read the resolution. Whereas, after 4 decades of dedicated service to the city of Hurst, Mayor Richard Ward has chosen to retire so that he may enjoy time with his family. And whereas Mayor Ward was born in Kilgore and spent his formative years in the surrounding area of Kennedale, graduating from Fort Worth Polytechnic High School in 1954 and from Texas Christian University in 1982. And whereas he served in the United States Army from 1954 to 1957 as an X-ray technician in Frankfurt, Germany. And whereas he was elected to the Hearst City Council from 1976 to 1980, and again in 2000 to 2004, and then in May of 2004, he was elected mayor of Hearst, serving until this May. And he is still mayor today, correct? Today. Thursday, next week? Maybe never.
My wife said Tuesday.
And that's the reason he's been mayor for so long, because he's listened to his wife all this time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about her also. Whereas, under Mayor Ward's leadership, the City Council was named Council of the Year by the Texas City Management Association in 2013 and 2014. And as a distinguished member of the community, Mayor Ward was active in numerous organizations, including the United States Conference of Mayors, the National League of Cities, the Tarrant County Mayor's Council, Northeast Leadership Forum, the HEB Chamber of Commerce Board, his church, and numerous other associations and organizations. Whereas Mayor Ward has guided his council and staff to plan and create a sustainable, safe, and dynamic place for all individuals to live, work, and play. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, congratulate Mayor Richard Ward for his 4 decades of distinguished public service and join with the citizens of the City of Hearst in extending our gratitude to him for improving the quality of life in this great Texas city, and wish him well in all future endeavors. Now, none of this could have ever happened without the wonderful lady that sits next to him, Sue Ward. So let's give both of them a great round of applause. And I move for approval.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Please vote. Motion
And,
passes
Sue,
unanimously.
would you please, Miss Mayor, would y'all both come up to the podium?
Richard is my name, and has been for many, many, many years. And in church, we have to be very careful because we all usher, and there are times when a quorum of the city council is walking down the aisle to collect money. What are you doing there? Protect that money. Okay. Now, she's gonna flash 3 times before she quits.
Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you'd like to say a few words, Sue, thank you so much.
I'm sorry, shake your hand now.
If you'd like to say a few words, you might.
I would like to say a few words. I was raised in Kennedale, Texas. Where the Kennedale people? Yay! Kennedale, Texas. And I remember the commissioners used to come out and have barbecues at election time. And I think that would be a good tradition.
Did you hear that, Andy?
We don't do that anymore. We have egg rolls instead, sir.
Those of you who are here, and I'm sure most of you know who I am. I really don't need to. Somebody said, yeah, that's true. But thank you for all you've done for me. Richard didn't mention Mid-City Pee Wee football or any of the sports that we were so active in back in the 70s out in Hearst, but I haven't forgotten those days, Richard, and thank you for what you did.
Commissioner Johnson.
This is for ratification only for the Tarrant County Officers Memorial Day, and that celebration will take place over on the west side of the courthouse Monday, I believe at 10 o'clock, 10 or 10:30.
Awesome.
10 o'clock. So I would move for its approval.
I'll second with one comment. I want to personally thank Commissioner J.D. Johnson for your leadership in making this a reality. I appreciate you. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you our consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Tidwell.
Good morning. We have one item we're asking the court to consider this morning, and that is to receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the period ended March 31st, 2018.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Snyder?
Risk Management Board is recommending payment of the claim on an accident that happened on March 13th to St. Paul Fire and Marine in the amount of $6,373.43.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Debbie.
Mr. Garcia? Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honors. We bring to you the item for approval of the contract between Tarrant County and Tenex Software Solutions for the acquisition of electronic poll books. This contract is related to the award that was made to the Tenex Software Solutions in last week's Commissioners Court meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Your Honor, as the court votes, make sure in the record that it indicates that the Commissioner's Court finds that the purchase constitutes a public purpose. It's in your court communication, but it needs to be in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Phillips. Whoops, that don't look like Mr. Phillips. Looks like Mr. Come on down, Tracy.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Tracy.
We have one item for your consideration this morning. Approval of Amendment Number 1 to the HDR Architecture Incorporated contract for architectural and engineering services related to the Juvenile Center project included in the 2006 Capital Improvement Program.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is a part of the
recommended additions.
Additions that you made a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Ms. Glenn? Or not?
I move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ange.
We have 3 items for your consideration. The first is a waiver of terminal benefits for information technology. This is for a lead project manager position effective May 19th. Approximately 120 hours with a net savings to the general fund of approximately $8,600.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have our second request is a request for double fill in just of the precinct 3. This would be effective May 19th. The cost to the general fund will be approximately $56,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item is an out-of-class pay extension for information technology. This would be effective May 24th for the business services manager position. The cost to the general fund would be approximately $3,100.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
How's that LSU doing? You were telling me earlier.
They're not doing. That's the problem, I think. Besides sweeping A&M in baseball last weekend, we actually had a $458,665 auction Saturday, though.
Wonderful.
I was sure glad that you said something off of that piece of paper that was county related, since it was on county stationery. Because had it not been, I was going to call on the sheriff's department to go ahead and just take you away right now.
Take me to Arkansas.
Would you let him ride with you if we would be willing to contribute a little bit toward the gas?
Taking a trailer.
There's hope. There's hope.
We have two items for your consideration this morning. First item is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2018-077. This is a RFP for our ground-based mosquito control and surveillance activities for the Public Health Department. Recommendation be to award for the terms of the contract, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors as shown in the court communique.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item, number 2, is an item in regards to bid 2018-074. This is our annual contract for U.S., Texas, and Tarrant County flags. We are recommending rejection of all bids and seeking to rebid with revised specifications. We just need to tweak the specs a little bit.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Commissioner Brooks has a interlocal agreement. Has that been looked at?
It has, Judge.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments today? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move for the approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Maines.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two items to bring to you this morning. The first is the monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
Commissioners, I too want to thank Mayor Ward for all he's done for JPS and the patients in the Northeast, and his willingness to always be a supporter to the Tarrant County Public Hospital system. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate all you've done, and I appreciate your counsel very much. So thank you. I also want to thank the tax office and Tom and Ron and the team. They allowed me to bring a guest out to their day retreat, which I appreciate very much, and they have had me speak to the tax office for the past 4 years. Obviously, there's a shortage of speakers, and they've allowed me to come speak to them for 4 straight years. And this year they said, we pretty much have enough of you speaking. Is there anybody that you might be able to bring to be a special guest? And so they requested a special guest. So they got a speaker who weighed 2,000 pounds.
So it's a four-legged guest.
A four-legged guest. And so we went out to South Campus with a 2,000-pound Clydesdale, and he was the best speaker they've ever had. And so I doubt that I'll be doing that speaking engagement.
I also spoke at this.
So that just reiterates what you just said. I mean,
What did you say about your horse?
He won't be back next year. Well, you can bring him next year. How about that? Y'all do that. So we had an enjoyable time. But I do want to thank the tax office in the sense that those are some incredible folks that get, I know it's sensitive to this court, get passed down mandates from the state and licensing fees increases and everything else, and they have to stand behind a counter dealing with constituents who are mad, and they're mad at them because they're the messenger and they weren't the instigator for some of the fees and the licensing and everything else, and they catch it all the time. And I appreciate those folks in our tax office, and we're lucky in Tarrant County to have them. So thank you all very much for letting me be a part of your program. The other thing I wanted to let you know is we did have our budget retreat. It is a one day that we take out of our board time and talk about a few things. And what we really looked at is, and I don't want any misunderstanding about this, all we did, and we're very sensitive as a board and administration to this court regarding anything regarding a bond election, whether there is one or whether there is not one. And we've looked at numbers and we've looked at all that, and all we did was total the amount of suggestions that were put in the Blue Ribbon Committee, which would be a total of about $1.2 billion. That is not what we're suggesting a bond package be, but we are suggesting that if that were to be a total amount, let's look at what that debt would be. And I drew that analogy to maybe looking at a new car. The car may look great, but when you look at your monthly payments, one needs to consider that. And we need to consider what we can and what we cannot pay for should there be a bond package, and that's what we did. And we went through that, and we looked at $1.2 billion, not as a recommendation, but as a point of the only number that could relatively be out there. So we discussed that. We had a very good discussion. It is live streamed and it is archived, so if any of you want to see that, we kept that in open session. We had that. We also had a discussion about our physician group, which is a claim. That was in addition to a meeting that we had with Mr. Manius and Commissioner Wynn, which we appreciated, and that is to go through our physician group and what those costs are to have our physicians at JPS and what the national average is. And the national average is about $70,000 per physician. JPS is at about $40,000 per physician. So that kind of puts a little bit in perspective. We'd like to get that number down lower and be as efficient as we possibly can with the physician group. But we wanted to look at best practices and national standards and get an idea. That was not only a good meeting that we had in Commissioner Wynn's office, but I think it was helpful for our board and any members of the public to hear that dialogue of what it costs to run a physician group and what we're trying to do with the Acclaim group. So those were good meetings, and I appreciate that. Then in addition, last week we had a meeting with Commissioner Wynn and Mr. Manius regarding mental health and mental health needs in our community and the role that JPS can play. And the language in the Blue Ribbon Committee is quite strong about JPS taking the leadership in that regard. And we are not only happy to do that, but when you have an MHMR like we have in Tarrant County with Susan Garnett in the leadership, that's an easy task to do from a cooperative spirit. We've got one of the best MHMRs in the state, and I would defend that strongly because I've seen a lot of MHMRs, and they do well. We just have one that's better. And I'm greatly appreciative of Susan and her work. So us being able to put together a team and work with the best mental and behavioral health issues for our community is something we can do. We just brought on our new Vice President of Behavioral Health. She has been at JPS now for 1 day. The exciting thing is she showed up yesterday and she came back today. And we are really, really delighted by that. So we're on a roll. And so she will be helping us. She, as I mentioned before, is the former Commissioner of Mental Health for the state of Alabama. So not only is Texas getting a new resident, we're getting what we hope is a great leader in Ms. Zelia Ball. And you all will meet her, and I think she will serve our community well. And I've already got her set up with some meetings with Susan and others. And I've asked Commissioner Wynn and you all that if we could have a little bit of time to get her on the ground and get her moving, that
so
would
we don't
help.
run her off if you bring her here. We don't.
Yeah, I want to just wait a little bit. It's like you don't bring your date home to meet your parents real quick. So I wanted to make sure that we did that. So we'll do that and go through that process. The last thing I want to mention before end my presentation and take any questions y'all might have is the recent announcement that the University of North Texas made with HCA facilities and their amount of residency programs. I talked to Dr. Mike Williams about that. He was kind enough to call me last week and give me a heads up on that. A lot of those residency programs are going to come out of Dallas County, and we'll go into Dallas County and serve them well. But it's a positive, and it's a positive for our community. There are a good many residency programs that this community needs. JPS still has the largest amount and will continue to have the largest amount, and we appreciate that here in Tarrant County. And we will always be a key component to residents. But it takes, the proverbial village to have residents and rotate them through organizations. The plus and the reason that Stuart Flynn will oftentimes tell you that a public hospital is instrumental is the amount of cases we see and the diversity of those cases, the acuity level of those cases. We are a learning facility, and that I think is critically important to address physician shortages. But somebody approached me yesterday and said, well, this must be bad news. And I said, no, it's great news. It's a positive thing to have residents that go throughout the organizations, both HCA and THR, Baylor, Methodist Mansfield, and throughout Tarrant County, and obviously the large role we play. So we welcome those residency programs and look forward to working with them.
Now, you currently have how many residents?
220 residents.
And I know that in talking with Dr. Flynn, he has mentioned 600 as a possible. I mean, again, what's happening or what has happened in the past, as you just said, if we train them, if we just get them through the educational part of it, and then they go off to residence, then oftentimes we lose it because, statistics will show you that the resident, when they finish their residency, they're going to do one of two things in 80% of the cases, I believe. They're either going to go back home or they're going to stay where they did their residency. Mm-hmm. So when we don't have the slots available for them to do the residency here, then in all likelihood, we've educated somebody that will not serve in this community. So I agree very much with what you're saying. We have got an excellent residency program through JPS. They do have an opportunity to experience things there that they will not experience at some of the other hospitals around this area. And I think everybody will benefit from that, from expanding those residency programs.
And we're at a point at JPS where expansion of residency programs might be something that the board would consider, but our facility is at a point where we don't have the room and the capability to bring on another 100 residents, and the cost of that is a big factor. It is a benefit, but there is a cost to pay for that as well. So we're going to go through that process, and we'll continue to look and work with the others. But the announcement that the University of North Texas Health Science Center made is a positive, and it's a positive for our community, for both DOs and MDs, because it keeps those trained individuals here. And to your point, Judge, the legislature has done well in creating some new medical schools, and there are private medical schools, which are great, but if you're only going to medical school and then you leave and go to any other state, say Arkansas, then we lose them. And those folks are going to be trained there and trained here, and then we lose that money and that capability. So it is a real plus. So any questions that y'all have?
One other thing that I would just ask, I want to be sure you mentioned this as the $1.2 billion. And that was when we created the Blue Ribbon Committee, we said, give us your wish list. We know that we're then going to have to take that and look at it and determine what, if anything, we can do with that. But the 1.2 was the maximum, because I have heard 1.5 mentioned before, and I don't know where that number came from, but it's wrong.
Right.
1.2 is what was laid out by the Blue Ribbon Committee. And then what we're doing on top of that is looking at cash reserves that you may have. Mm-hmm. We're looking at public-private, or we will look at public-private partnerships. But we had asked Mr. Manius to give us that number, and the schedule that he gave us was, I believe it was $1.2 billion, and there was maybe $5 million above that, but it was very close to that.
And to Mr. Manius's credit and the Blue Ribbon Committee's credit, they did a wonderful job. They looked and said, if you had all your needs answered, this is what the potential might be. But you all have got to weed through that. Our board has weeded through that, and none of us have necessarily come up with that. It's just saying, if you were able to put everything together, this is what you're looking at. So I think it's an ability to have a starting point by which you look at what services you need and how you deal with that. So your point is well taken.
And you're right. The proposition that we put forth for the Citizen Blue Ribbon Committee was a theoretical situation that if money wasn't a problem,
sure,
and if you can wave a magic wand and fix all the health issues and so forth, what would be your recommendation?
Right.
Just we wanted them to focus on the solution, not the money, and that's what we have. But I want to add, Judge, is out of all those recommendations, most of them have to do with the capital projects, which are very much needed to expand the capacity of our healthcare delivery system. But there are also a number of strategic recommendations related to the preventative approach to healthcare, which is wellness, and also to behavioral health as well. And those two are the hard ones. If you think getting $1.2 billion is hard, try implementing those, a plan to make those two recommendations a reality. It requires a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of complexity, because we have to work and collaborate with multiple jurisdictions and organizations and individuals within 900 square miles of Tarrant County. Those are the very hard things to do, but we must do it, because if we don't, even the expanded capacity will not be able to withhold the tsunami of the future that is expected in the future. And to do that, we need the collective leadership of this body, not just one individual. No one individual can make this work. It has to be a collective leadership from multiple organizations, including Tarrant County and JPS. And I appreciate, Robert, we had the initial meeting, and I committed to you, Judge, and to the court members that the key points, the meeting minutes of all these meetings, my office will compile it and share it with you and your staff. As we have done previously, we will continue to do so.
Well, and to your point, Commissioner, there's another collaborative effort that we need, and if you create community clinics, which is a key component to any healthcare delivery system, the key collaboration that you need is the patient. They need to cooperate. They need to
Absolutely.
They need to take care of themselves to some degree. Medicine can only go so far, but if you're taking medicine and you continue to smoke, or you continue to eat the wrong food, or you continue not to exercise,
Are you talking about Tom?
No, I'm not making any comments. Those are really, really difficult situations. So as we grow, we got to think of the whole, and that's what we're doing.
You are right.
I want to thank you all very
Thank
much.
you, Robert. Thank you, Robert.
You're more than welcome.
Now, see, Jack, what happens when you don't get up and poke the bear before the bear gets up to speak?
Really? Do you want to take them? Can you just drop them off and Hope? Just let him stay in Hope, Arkansas.
Our second item, Your Honor, is an update on the City of Sansom Park's TIF Zone 1. Ms. McMillan is here to initially address the court.
Judge, Commissioners, about 5 years ago, the City of Sansom Park presented their proposal to establish a 179-acre tax increment reinvestment zone along Jacksboro Highway and Azle Avenue. This would provide infrastructure and site improvements that would remove the blighted conditions along these roadways and support the revitalization and redevelop of these two corridors. Since that time, the TIF board met and they did finally approve a final project and financing plan, but development in the area was slow to occur. There was little increment and they had multiple city management changes, and so they never came back to the county to get formal participation. The good news is now there's some development happening, and we have now been presented with participation agreements, and they are asking the county to formalize participation for the county and hospital district in the Sansom Park TERS. So we've asked Jack Thompson, who is the consultant who initially set the plan for the Sansom Park TERS, to come and give you an update, because it's been so long since we've talked about this, and to see what's been going on in the TERS, and just to go back over and review this type of participation. So I'm going to ask Jack to come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jack, long time no see.
It's been a while.
Yes.
Been a while.
Good to see you.
Well, I'm coming to represent Sansom Park this morning, and as Lisa had mentioned, we've been well on our way with our TERS and redevelopment of Sansom Park, and quite a bit has happened. So what I'll do is give a brief overview of what initially we did and then where we are today. So currently, why we ended up doing the TERS was a lot of the development of Sansom Park occurred in the 50s through the 70s and was kind of haphazard, and we had just a lot of different types of developments really pop up, and not all of it was the highest and best use. So we also, it led to a lot of underdevelopment of Sansom Park. It also, with Jacksboro Highway, things began to kind of fall in disrepair. We've got kind of a Wild West of ingress and egress out along Jacksboro Highway. We also have a lot of drainage issues, infrastructure issues, which really is kind of prohibiting new development and new growth. Also, Azle Avenue has a lot of underdeveloped pieces of property along that boulevard, and also really kind of underdeveloped as far as infrastructure goes. So what we wanted to do in attracting new investment and new development to Sansom Park was basically recreate our zoning maps and zoning ordinances. We made improvements to Jacksboro Highway from an aesthetics point of view, so that way people can see that the city does care and that we are pouring money into both Jacksboro Highway and Azle Avenue. The city had purchased a new building for a new city hall and new city facilities, which has really helped. We've been in a campaign called Thunder Road, which is really trying to differentiate our section of Jacksboro Highway from our neighbors and set us apart, kind of giving it a more of a fun entrepreneurial type spirit for Jacksboro Highway. The Economic Development Corporation has been in the process of purchasing land and accumulating properties on both Jacksboro Highway and Azle Avenue to eventually encourage some redevelopment along those corridors. Our timeline, and then so from our other initiatives, we've also, in addition to that, been looking at renovations of Jacksboro Highway and also ways that we can redevelop and enhance Jacksboro as far as adding bike lanes, curb and gutter, sidewalks, and also look at the infrastructure around Jacksboro to the other streets too that run parallel to Jacksboro Highway, how we can facilitate traffic around the city, and also that would best enable new businesses to come in and thrive. Our timeline and vision for this was really to create kind of a restaurant row of locally owned, regionally owned types of restaurants along Jacksboro Highway. We have been successful in moving that direction. We've added a few restaurants, and we're in the process of adding 3 more restaurants onto Jacksboro Highway, which has been a nice accomplishment for us. We are also cleaning up Azle Avenue. We've worked with several of our businesses along there to encourage and clean up. We've also been successful in working with some developers on buying some of that land and also begin the cleanup process on that land, particularly the one where you see all those tires. We cut a deal with the developer, and that no longer exists. And has all been cleaned up, and a shopping center will soon be built on that property. So we've made some good efforts on that, new housing. So we also have, as phase 3, the Azle Avenue property promotion, land development on Azle Avenue, and then Jacksboro Highway commercial development over the life of this TIF. Fortunately for us, things have been moving at a much more rapid rate than what we projected. On the 42 acres that we really look for as our catalyst to push the TERS and to get us that incremental bump has happened much sooner than later. Thanks a lot to Tarrant County Housing. We've worked with them on a new multifamily and senior living project that will be valued at approximately $30 million. They are also looking at adding another $21 million in new investment as far as additional multifamily. So you're looking upwards to about $50 million of new investment within the TERS district in the next few years, which has been really beneficial for us. And that comes in the form of Sansom Point Senior Living and Sansom Ridge Apartments. We also, as I just mentioned, where we replace those tires in that kind of salvage yard with an upcoming retail shopping center on that property, but we've also have some other developers that have been actively looking for additional sites on Azle Avenue, and so we're very optimistic that we'll continue the process of turning around the underdeveloped properties on both Azle Avenue and Jacksboro Highway. And like I said, we have a restaurateur who's purchased from the city the old bingo hall on Beverly Hills in 199. He was going to put in a barbecue restaurant with outdoor seating for live bands and music, and kind of create it as a little funky kind of fun venue for music, beer, and and barbecue. Can't go wrong with any of
Beer and
that.
barbecue is just,
You know, it kind of is a hit, you know, especially Texas, go figure. He's also opening up a hamburger shop in what used to be our old Dairy Queen, right there on, basically right in front of that property, in front of the old bingo hall on Jacksboro Highway. So that'll be 2 restaurants, and we're also opening up a
you can
third
get a
restaurant.
hamburger and listen to the music without having to be over with the music.
You could sit out in the back. He is putting out a backdoor patio for that, so you could conceivably sit on the patio out back of the burger joint and listen to the bands up at the barbecue joint. So hey, a lot of stuff going on. So from that perspective, we've been very, very pleased with the way things have been going. The restaurants that we have added have been very successful. And have exceeded their expectations of their growth and what they thought they would do. So that's been very encouraging to us. The city has had 5 years of record sales tax growth, and we're well on our way to our 6th. So things have been trending very well for Sansom Park the last few years. And then those are the district boundaries. As you can see, it's 179 acres total. It basically encompasses all of our commercial and mixed-use land. That 42 acres on the northeast part of the city, you can kind of see hangs down and actually borders Beverly Hills Drive or McCandless down there. All that land is the land that has been redeveloping with multifamily and senior living. So all that project has been really very good. It's been nice to see the development unfold the way we had projected and predicted it would. So, which really adds well to our revenue base. And as an overview of our financial highlights for this TIF, initially the district value is $24.6 million. The life of the TERS is 25 years, and you can see the city of Sansom Park's in at 100%, Tarrant County at 80%, and the hospital and college both in at 50%. Our total estimated project costs are about $6.6 million. Most of this is going to go back towards infrastructure, which we dearly need, infrastructure beautification. We're also currently working with TxDOT and the COG on a redevelopment of Jacksboro Highway all the way from Loop 820 into downtown Fort Worth. We're very excited about that project. Friesen Nichols is currently doing the environmental assessment on our portion of Jacksboro Highway. So
That's 6 lanes?
Yes.
All the way down to north
With
side.
turn lanes.
Yes.
With turn lanes, yes.
And that's some of the things that we're working with too, is that gets back to our looking at the zoning and also our thoroughfare issues, because once you do 6 lanes, it's going to blow through the middle of town, and we don't want to just kind of be a pass-through. So we're working on ways to pull people off into Jacksboro, create better infrastructure on parallel roads, so that way people can easily come around and shop at our businesses and whatnot, because Sansom Park's primarily always going to be mom and pop and locally owned businesses. That's just the way our
I
city
think
shakes
the
out.
roundabout at White Settlement Road in Jacksboro will back traffic up into Sansom Park. You won't have a problem having cars sitting out there waiting.
Well, if they want to come have a beer at a barbecue or hamburger place, hey, we're okay with that while they wait for the roundabout to
And I
settle
guess
down.
the question, I think on slide 4.
Okay.
That little concept design down at the bottom implies 4 lanes in either direction and not 6. I know you got a lane sitting over there on the other side of that green
Yeah, we
space.
do. And that was one of the ideas proposed, but that probably won't be the way it ends up looking.
Good.
Yeah, it'll be 6 lane. So what we're looking at doing is you have, well, on the north, I guess that's the north side of Jacksboro Highway is Terrace Trail runs, and so we're looking at ways to beef up Terrace Trail.
Okay.
And how would that affect, basically kind of like what Roanoke did. You know, they took their main street kind of off the main drag and brought people in. We're exploring ways on how to make that possible.
Good.
And those are the kind of things that we'll need assistance from for the TERS.
Well, and I know we've talked with the COG about that, and because of the bridges that he's referring to down as we get closer into downtown, we've got to go back down to 4 lanes, but I think north side is where that's been designated to go back down to 4 from 6. So
I think
that's
so,
all.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And other than that, We do look at issuing debt probably in year 11, maybe sooner as the district starts to really revenue and our numbers have been going up as much as they have been. A lot of that will go towards infrastructure and improvements to our, basically to water, sewer, and streets to support future development along both Hazel Avenue and Jacksboro Highway.
So you're basically looking for 6.6 million?
Yes, sir.
And with about $1.5 million of that coming from Tarrant County.
Well, closer to about $1 million coming from Tarrant County.
Well, the hospital.
Tarrant County and the hospital.
Oh, I know, I'm skipping it. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Are you planning a management district in the area?
No, sir. We're not looking at doing an MMD.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So as Jack laid out, the terms that are in the participation agreement is the county participating at 80% through 2036 or until the cap of approximately 970,000 has been met, and the hospital district would be at 50% until approximately 520,000 has been met. Even with us coming in year 6, this will be starting with the 2017 tax year, it's still anticipated that we will reach those caps before the end of the 2036 time period. So our plan is to come back next week with the participation agreements for both the county and the hospital district. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
Then we will now recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under Section 5501.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. Return from closed session. There being no business to conduct at this time, we stand adjourned.